Get paid to drive. Start a new career behind the wheel at the EMTA. If you are looking for a high-paying and rewarding career with full benefits and paid training, stop by or apply online today with the EMTA. Plus, EMTA riders can now enjoy free Wi-Fi on new, clean, and environmentally friendly buses to travel all over Erie County. Visit ridethee.com for more information.
Get on board EMTA. Get on board EMTA. Get
Quickfill gasoline is made right here in America. United Refining Company, who operates Quickfill, refines its gasoline from North American crude oil in Warren, Pennsylvania. When you buy United Refining Company gasoline at Quickfill, you keep jobs and businesses in America. And you keep American families strong. You don't need to send your money overseas when you buy gasoline. Buy American-made gasoline at Quickfill. Quickfill. Driving America.
Welcome to TalkErie.com's Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast. Every day, we tackle the biggest issues that the Erie PA region faces. Stay informed and involved as we advance the narrative of Erie. Now, here's Joel Natale.
Let's welcome in our amazing political guru and the Harbor Creek Township Supervisor, Dean Pepicello. Thanks for coming in early, Dean.
Glad to do it. Sun's a little higher in the sky than when I'm usually here. I'll take it.
and no horizontal rain or snowstorms, you know.
Not today.
You never know what you're going to encounter on a Monday.
That's right. That's right.
There is just a lot going on. So let's start with our conversation with Steve Scully on Friday, as we were kind of talking about the lay of the land in D.C., and he said it's chaos down there.
Well,
does that? I mean, that sounds for real.
I'm not sure there's ever not chaos, but yeah, I would suspect there's chaos, right? This is draining the swamp, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think so. By the way, Steve, my kid graduated from Gannon Saturday. Steve did a tremendous speech.
Did he really?
Really is. Still such
congratulations
an Erie guy.
to you.
Yeah, you've been there,
and
right?
your son. Well, I mean, it's just a huge deal when your kids. I mean, that's a big accomplishment.
Yeah.
To graduate from college.
Good for him. He better. Otherwise, we'll kick him.
Oh, God. Right.
He's like I was my father's kid. He's mine. So you better get it done. It was cool. It was awesome. And Steve Scully was a wonderful speaker for the commencement. Yeah, that was a great choice. So of course it's chaos. It's Donald Trump, right? Everything is chaos. It's certainly not boring. I bet he didn't say it was boring.
No, it isn't. Well, and what's happening is this. People don't know if they have a contract or not. People don't know if they have a job or not, and the MO of the government has always been, well, you're in forever, especially if you're an employee, right?
Not the way it should be, but yes,
that's what happens. Yeah, that's the way it's been. Yeah,
I think what's going on is now you're talking budget stuff. So Trump wants no tax on tips and no tax on Social Security and all of these things, and they've got to pay for it. The math doesn't work. Like what he wants to do, he's not going to get back in revenue. It isn't going to work. So they're trying to cut everything they can at this point without the entitlement programs. They're not going to touch Social Security and Medicare. They are going to touch Medicaid. It does look that way.
Yeah, how are they doing that? Are they looking for waste, fraud, and abuse
yes.
in Medicaid?
No, but I think,
how else?
I think your full review. So I think if you're able-bodied and you're collecting Medicaid for some reason and you shouldn't be, I think you might want to be looking over your shoulder. Wow. Like I think there's a lot of that going on today. Reduction of benefits. I think that you could potentially see. But, they're looking for every dime. They've got to pay for the financial things he wants to do. Even he now has floated the idea of a tax increase on
$2.5 million and above.
On the wealthy, quote.
I think he should do it.
He can't do all this. He can't pay. His tax cuts can't expire, and they're going to at the end of the year. Right. Unless Congress takes action. They can't expire. It will be a tax increase on the average person. So
people think that if the tax cuts expire, it won't make any impact on the middle class. That is not true.
No, I would agree.
I remember when my taxes went down.
So do I. We all recognized it in our paychecks. So he's got to pay for it. That's their dilemma right now. And certainly 2 weeks ago, we had conversations about how he wasn't having a very good time, and he wasn't. Man, has that changed in the last couple of days. I mean, you can't miss what's going on here, even today alone.
Well, I mean, where the market is, where the situation with China is, where getting back a hostage, the final live American hostage. He's having a very good day, President Trump.
India, Pakistan.
Yes,
peace
the
deal.
ceasefire.
We'll see how long these things hold. It looks like Ukraine and Russia may come to the table. We'll see if that, again, these things are all shaky at best, but clearly going in the right direction. And I don't think you underestimate what he's done today with the executive order on drug prices. Today. Again, now we're all scrambling to learn how that works, and the government has so much control, but apparently they do. I don't think the drug companies are very happy today.
Well, this whole thing that we have to pay for all the R&D, and then in India or Japan they pay pennies on the dollar than what we're paying for a drug like that. That doesn't seem right.
It's starting to appear, and we'll see how it plays out. And it's still early, and the headlines are great today, and the market reacting great. But it's starting to appear. I watched him with the Canadian Prime Minister, the new one, and you cringe sometimes because he's going to say what he thinks, and he does want him to be a 51st state.
Never say never.
It's so ridiculous. the Prime Minister is like, he's rolling his eyes a little bit, shaking his head like, dude, stop it. Like, I'm with you, right? But he said then, in amongst all of that, which I just laugh at, all of it is like, these things take time. Give us some time. Trust me at this point. And honestly, you're seeing some victories today. We'll see how it plays out. He's in far better shape than he was 2 weeks ago.
No,
I mean, you have to be honest about that.
I mean, basically, the stocks have recovered all of what they lost since, what was it, Revolution Day or whatever?
Right?
Yeah.
Right. All come back today. We'll see if it holds. I still think it's a high number. I can't believe it's come back that quick.
Right. Yeah. Well, the stocks were overvalued anyway. Let's get our first weigh in here from the public. Hi, you're live on Talk Erie with Dino and Joel.
Hey, Joel, Dino.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Joel, didn't Steve Scully get suspended by C-SPAN for a while?
Yeah, that was back during the 2020 election or something like that because of a tweet.
Yeah, I thought he did.
Yeah, it was during the middle of the cancel culture. I don't think it was warranted, but he's moved on from all that. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, you can move on if you want, but, I mean, he was suspended because he wasn't doing his job correctly. But anyhow, just to move on, so you're probably not going to take phone calls when you have the Democrat candidate on for county executive.
Well, yeah, it's pre-recorded. You're right. Go ahead.
Could you just ask him a question for me?
Well, it's already recorded, but what's the question? I'm interested.
Well, I just wanted to know what the filet mignon at the Erie Club tastes like.
I wouldn't know.
I wouldn't
Dino,
know.
do you know what filet at the Erie? How about?
I don't get filet at Giant Eagle.
I'm just saying,
Oh, jeez.
that in shrimp cocktails, $18 a piece.
But they split them. Did you? There were 6 people eating, so they did split them.
Who was the 6 people?
I don't know. Maybe he
board of
closed the
ECHA?
deal. Maybe it was the board. Who knows?
But anyhow, let me move on.
Yes,
reclaim
sir.
My time real quick.
Reclaim your time. Yes, Senator.
I only have an hour with the guru here.
Yep.
But I had some couple questions I wanted to ask him, and one of them was going to be if you ever ate at the Erie Club, and he's already answered.
Well, I haven't had filet. I've been there, but I haven't had filet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Same here. I've had a tomahawk, but go ahead.
I want to talk about the mayor race.
Yeah.
If we could. And I want to get Dino's opinion here. So, I get around the neighborhoods a lot around here on the east side, and that's something that probably Dino doesn't get much time to do. They just closed that big deal over there in Harbor Creek. But I see 10-1 signs for Daria Devlin, compared to Joe Schimber signs. And I wanted to ask him if he thought this race could be an upset. Okay? And I would like for him to answer me, because usually when I ask Dino a question, or anyone does, he's sort of like Joe. He doesn't answer. Joe has a chief of staff, Renee, that can text him the answer, and Dino doesn't. I understand that, but I would like to get a straight answer if he thinks this could be an upset in the making, and I'll hang up and listen.
All right, bro. Thanks. Good to hear from you. Bye.
Such a jerk. So
I'm
funny.
sorry. He he is like one of the funniest
He's a
guys I
funny
know.
dude.
Oh
he's,
my
he's
gosh.
a funny dude. He doesn't really get credit, and people don't
I
understand.
mean,
him.
his sarcasm is right on point.
And
anyway,
constant. He berates me all. It's so funny, and he just crushes.
but
it. It's funny.
but there is something to the sign war, is there not, Dean?
I mean, signs. We say in the business, when you lose, you say signs don't vote. You know what I mean? But,
right.
Maybe they do, but typically they don't. This is. I know that if you were to look at issues, those two candidates are probably pretty close. Honestly,
You're talking about the mayor
mayors,
and Daria.
exactly
Yeah.
right. They're fairly close. I think if you ask them issues, and I don't know if
You're talking
profiling them
about their actual policy stances
on issues, right?
On issues, yes,
fairly close.
I would say, yeah.
Really, Joe's.
Yeah.
He was a pretty conservative banker, but he's certainly been liberal as a mayor. I
Right.
would think he supported all the potential
Social
liberal causes.
issues,
right?
You
And
know,
he's been unafraid.
Diversity,
Yep.
equity, inclusion,
Yep,
all that. yeah.
stuff. Probably the same. I don't know Daria as well or her platform, but I think if you were to throw the big issues in front of them, they would be pretty similar.
Right.
That aside, they are about as different as it comes. Joe's in his 70s and a male. She's considerably younger and a female. Fresh name, lots of energy. The old guard who's been around a long time. So they're very different candidates. I will tell you again, if you look at this race, anything can happen. This doesn't feel like a change election to me. It felt like a change election 2 years ago, the Donald Trump one, maybe even the Brent Davis race originally. This doesn't feel like a change election to me. It can be. Nothing would surprise me. But again, point to me, an incumbent mayor in the city of Erie who lost in a primary. When was the last time?
It was Rick Filippi.
Rick Filippi, who was in the middle of this whole casino
Right.
thing, right?
Yep.
Like, think what you want.
Yep.
It was a circus surrounding him at that time.
Correct, yes.
So you can't tell me Joyce Savacchio didn't lose, Joe Sinnott didn't lose. We can go way back, right? So history would tell you that it is very difficult. I also think that
I mean, all those years of Tullio, never lost.
Exactly, right? He was a master politician, though.
Sure,
Right? Better than anybody, at least at being a politician. It's an election where it's just super voters. It's likely the average age is likely to be much older than it was a couple of years ago in a presidential, right? Daria Devlin is not favored in this race. I know the signs will tell you something different, but today, historically speaking, in the city of Erie, it favors an incumbent who is as connected and has been public as long as Joe Schember. You're asking somebody who's been public a year, I guess. I mean, I know she's had some profile. You're
Well,
asking,
she was president of the school board.
Yeah, and I'm not.
But I'm not
I
sure that's
understand
a
that.
helpful thing,
It's-
considering where the Erie schools are at.
I'm not saying she can't win. I'm not saying she's not a fantastic candidate. I'm not saying any of those things
Yeah.
because both of those things are true. But I'm telling you, it is an uphill battle for her to beat a two-term incumbent with a ton of name recognition and part of the old guard in the city of Erie. That's
I
just
think
the
she
reality of the race.
recognizes that. That's why she's pouring it on.
I know
and
they
she's
feel-
been campaigning now since before Christmas.
Right, and they feel very good. They feel good about their campaign. They
Yeah.
should. She's a tremendous candidate. But it's still, to me, it's an uphill battle. We'll see what happens. I can't predict that race. I'm just telling
So
you.
you're saying
historically.
the sign story may not be the whole story.
I'm not buying the sign. Signs don't vote.
All right. Let's sneak another call real quick. I've got to break quickly, but go ahead. You're live on Talk Erie.
Hey, what's going on, Joel?
Going well.
Hey, some of the guys at work, we're trying to do this trivia thing. Anybody know what the name of the convenience store was? Remember in Fast Times at Ridgemont High when Spicoli walked into the convenience store at the end of the show and he stopped that robbery? You know, anybody remember the convenience store?
I don't.
Oh man,
Greatest scene
I'm
ever.
trying to win the $10, but I figured I'd call you. You know, you might have that your fellow on the show. He's
I'm about that age, man.
holy mackerel! Hey,
I
don't
just
think Filippi-
I just remember Mr. Hand. That's what
Mr.
I remember.
Hand.
Mr. Hand. Yeah.
Hahn, Mr. Hahn. Hey, I don't think Rick Filippi has a horse in the race.
Right.
If you get my drift. Anyway.
Oh, that's good.
Oh my goodness.
That's good stuff.
See if you guys can figure that out for me, and I'll call back tomorrow. Thanks.
All right. See you later. Yeah, we need to figure out. We'll do a quick AI search. Dino's with us, and we've been saying, Trump is having quite a week. I wanted to take a look at what the market is doing because that seems to be, kind of one of those I don't know if you call it a leading indicator or certainly kind of a barometer that, President Trump likes to be, he likes to be evaluated by metrics. He's a metric guy. He likes
no
the
doubt.
ratings, right?
No doubt.
So, the Wall Street Journal right now is saying the Dow is up 2.6%, the S&P up 3%, the NASDAQ up 4%.
Yeah, they got the news they were waiting for, right? They don't like uncertainty. Market doesn't like uncertainty, and they got some certainty today.
Yeah, just now 300 points away from the all-time high, which was in February. I mean, that's how, topsy-turvy this thing has been on the S&P.
And probably will continue to be that way this year. I would expect, most of the experts have said big swings either way at the end of the day, up slightly, right? That's what we're looking for.
Right. But we were getting some steady growth, after the election. They thought, hey, maybe this will, make things right. And then, he came up with the tariff idea. One question I wanted to ask you, and I have about 3 minutes, is there's this concept of anchoring. And so, Trump, the art of the deal, supposedly he's this master negotiator, right? And everybody who doesn't like him just says, oh, he's ridiculous, right? Mm-hmm. But think about this. Right now with the UK, we basically went from an effective 2% tariff against English goods to 10%.
Right.
With this China deal, we're at 10% tariff plus a 20% kind of punitive tariff for the fentanyl. He's still at 30%.
You're right. Down from 145.
Down from 145. But, that's no longer nothing.
Right.
And if they take away the loophole of everything under $800 is tariff-free, that kind of cremates the whole Temu and Shein thing, which I have a problem with. They're basically rip-offs of American designs half the time. And Shein is that fast fashion that, the clothes basically fall off of you after 2 wearings.
Right.
And, maybe that's me being a crotchety old man, but the bottom line is that has this guy set an anchor for higher U.S. tariffs and the billions that go with that, and everybody's going to say, hey, this is great?
I think there's a couple of things. I think we were getting ripped off. I think that's fair, right? I think we were. And I think most presidents said that's just the way it is, and we're going to do that. So I think that we were getting ripped off, number one. Number two, I think they need us. I can't really speak for China, but it looks that way. China's economy is in trouble, by the way. But it looks like
they're closing factories.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah, when I say they, I mean the world. So they need us more than we need them at the end of the day. And we've both been in negotiations. When you're negotiating from a position of weakness, it isn't very much fun.
Nope.
You're trying to get as much as you can. At the end of the day, you've got to eat it and probably take what you can get. So he's negotiating from a position of strength. We should have figured this out earlier, I guess. So he's in this position of strength, and he knows that he can get a win. And really, at the end of the day, make a little money, quit getting hosed. It's a win. It seems to me like where he has ended up in this whole thing at this point. So he said it all along. We're getting screwed, and we're going to stop getting screwed. And it's worked out. China doesn't like to be pushed around. Certainly don't want to appear
and
it. But
did you hear how
they're
deferring to China, saying they're tough negotiators, they're really good. We're glad we were able to get this much out of them.
Yeah.
They're just deferring to them. Meanwhile, we went from 2% to 30%.
Right. Exactly. Now let's see how it plays out. Right? Our price is going to go through the roof. We're going to have issues like that. All these things have yet to play out. Let's see where it goes. But to me now, it finally makes sense to the stock market. It makes sense to the American people today.
Let's talk about this primary here, because there are so many storylines, just like caller Bill was talking about. Do the signs make the difference in the mayor's race? Because Daria is out signing Mayor Joe. 10-1. I would agree with that.
Wow.
I mean, I see some larger 4x8s of the mayor. I'm not seeing anything yard signs wise, whereas you see a lot of Daria yard signs. Let's talk about the county executive race, and there's a significant TV spot right on the air right now, right?
Yes.
It's kind of a Is it a pro-Vogel, anti-Vogel? I can't figure it out. What did you see?
The answer is yes. It's
Both.
It is both. So I think this is a page out of the. Josh Shapiro did this to Doug Mastriano. I want to say, did Mastriano have a primary opponent in that
Oh, I'm
governor's
sure he
race?
did.
I would
Yeah,
imagine.
of course he did.
Right?
Yeah.
So Shapiro, they wanted to run against Mastriano.
Yeah.
I think you're seeing the reverse of this.
Is this Operation Chaos? Is this Rush Limbaugh or something?
Yeah. I mean, I don't see any other explanation. Clearly, it's paid for by the Davis campaign. They've had to.
You have to say that.
They have to
yeah.
say that, right? So they have. I think it's clear to me and to anybody who has any understanding at all that they'd rather run against Christina Vogel than Perry Wood. So I think they're trying to do both. You notice there aren't any unflattering pictures. Like it's
usually
not,
that stark picture.
right? There wasn't any of that.
Yeah.
And at the end of it saying, she's anti-Trump, that appeals to Democratic voters. So you're clearly trying to say to Democratic voters, this is the candidate you want if you don't like Donald Trump, because they don't like Donald Trump. So to me, they're trying to do both. Prop her up. They want to run against her, but damage her enough that it helps them in the long run.
Right,
It's this new strategy. It's interesting. If you ever want to be in politics, I suspect Christina Vogel today is saying, what have I gotten myself into? Maybe a little, because
Right.
it's just so hard for outsiders. It's so hard. You didn't buy that ad. You didn't pay for that ad. And that's
Right.
you they're talking about. It's so hard for people who've not been, you and I, we've been around this business. We're thick skin, whatever. Nothing really surprises us anymore. Even you in this business.
Right, yeah.
But clearly the strategy is to do both. Prop her up. We want to run against her, but we want to damage her at the same time.
Is that saying something for the Perry campaign, Perry Wood's campaign?
I would think if I'm Perry Wood, clearly Brent Davis want to run against me. Wants to run against my opponent. I mean, clearly I don't know what other strategy
or could
there
it
would
be that they're already looking to the fall and thinking that Vogel's the one?
Maybe. But
I don't know.
Then why get involved now? Why now? Because right?
Right.
Again, when you say she's anti-Trump, you are telling Democrats to vote for her.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think you're.
It's opposite day.
Exactly. That's what it is.
This is right out of SpongeBob.
This is the new. One of the greatest ever.
Yes.
One of the greatest episodes ever.
Exactly.
That's to me. That's what this. I don't see any. Your explanation isn't as plausible, I don't think, as mine.
Okay.
They're spending all this money now. I mean, it's right out of that playbook. It's right out of the Shapiro playbook in reverse.
Well, okay. Well, that does make a lot of sense, and so what's a Democrat to do? I mean, basically, if Brenton wants me to vote for Vogel,
but they don't see it that way. Like
they just get their hay fire up because she's anti-Trump.
Exactly.
I'm with her
exactly
because of the Trumpster.
That's the strategy.
Can you believe? I mean, again, you've been in politics for so long.
Yeah.
National having so much impact on a county race.
Sure. You have to win every seat. That's how you get stuff done, right? You have to be in power at every level, and they're doing it now. And these are the races that are up now, right? They're at the national races, so it's an interesting business, isn't it? So you want to be in politics, Christina. If you look at that race, Perry Wood's had the money. He's had some name recognition. I think he's had the organization. He's had big names behind him. Looks a lot like Daria Devlin's race, I think, when you're looking at that.
I think that's accurate, yeah.
Christina Vogel is the more dangerous candidate, and I mean dangerous in a way that, in a good way, I'll call it. Woman, business owner, comes from the private sector, a lot of upside. But she has found out this is a difficult race to run. Mm-hmm. Like you're in the race a few weeks, and bam, you're doing a debate. It was very hard. It is very hard to go debate on these issues with very little preparation.
Well, and you have somebody like Perry who's in front of the cameras all the time.
And probably has been prepping for this race for years.
He's got a PhD. I mean, my gosh, there's a lot. It's a whole different thing.
But his ceiling is probably his ceiling. Her ceiling, she's not even close to at this point, I think, if you're analyzing that race
so interesting.
in a fair way. She has.
So what's turnout look like here?
Yeah, it's funny.
It's got to be terrible.
30%, maybe. I mean, you have a mayor's race, so the city might be up a little.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I would say it'd be somewhere between 25 and 35%. I mean, that's not a big leap.
Yeah,
I think as a guess, but probably.
So basically, to kind of finish your point, you're saying that this is a proxy thing. This is almost like Kamala versus Trump, but it's Vogel versus Davis?
No, all elections are local. So they're still local. People, here's the thing, too. People they're tired, right? They're fatigued with politics. Donald Trump does that to you.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you love him or hate him, you're fatigued, man. You're dealing with it every day. It is Operation Chaos all the time. Steve Scully was right.
Yeah,
the
it's
chaos
right. It's
in
like
DC.
chaos is constant.
Is the chaos here? I mean, let's face it, Brent Davis is kind of a hurricane.
He's a disruptor.
Right? Right? And he's not afraid to do that. So I think people are fatigued. I'm not sure how close they're paying attention they're paying. Super voters will. It's going to be the super of super voters. We'll see where it plays out.
I'd love to see what the mail-ins look like. I mean, too bad they can't give us like a daily total.
You could call down there and ask. They
and
could
find out how many
returned.
the intern.
Yeah, I think they would tell you how many
tab,
been returned,
as they call it,
or you could vote in person already, right?
Yeah, sure.
At the courthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Speaking of which, tomorrow is the last day to apply for your mail-in ballot.
Okay.
This is it. So they close it off a week before. Let's get another phone call in here. Hi, you're live with Dean and Joel on Talk Erie.
Well, hello, Dean. Hello, Joel. Good, happy Monday.
Same to you.
Someone's going to make a lot of money here because I have an idea and I'm just too swamped to do anything about it. You're talking politics today, right?
Yep.
And Dean, that's right up your alley. You're always on point with everything you're saying, almost everything you're saying.
Yeah, thanks. I'll take it.
Has anyone thought of, consider making a game, a board game called Politics? You have 3 different versions. You have the local, and then for more advanced players, you have the state, and for hardcore players, you have the federal or world politics, for that matter.
Well, that sounds like Risk. Right?
It sounds like what?
Risk. Remember the strategy game Risk? It was on. Even Seinfeld was playing it. It was what was it? Kramer and Newman were playing Risk. I think
I remember the game.
World domination.
I'm talking. Politics. Local politics is one thing. And state politics, that's a totally other animal, which builds on the skills of local and of course the federal or world politics. I can see similarities with Risk, but this is totally different.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope to see it on the shelves next 3 years.
I hate to see how you win the game. I'm afraid to ask how you win the game.
Sounds
no one wins. That's the funny thing. You never win. It just keeps going.
Oh, that sounds about right.
One side to the other. I mean, it never ends. No, it never does.
No.
Do you ever get anything done?
That's
Not
a good call.
really.
Oh, we get stuff done at the local level. Don't kid yourself. I can't speak. Yeah, I can't speak for the higher level.
Hey, I appreciate it. Take it easy. We'll see you.
All right, bye.
That's awesome.
Speaking of which, can I congratulate you? So tell us about this new development out in Harbor Creek. I have to say Harbor Creek too.
Yeah, thanks. Joe Palermo's doing Harbor Village, 173 townhouses and apartments. Hopefully some commercial units out front as well.
So market rate or?
Yeah, all market rate. A lot like Copperleaf in Mill Creek. Similar. I think he's learned a few lessons from that one coming to this one, which is awesome. It's been a couple years.
All rentals or some?
Yeah,
some
I think those are rentals.
Condos. Okay.
I think those are rentals. It's a cool project. It's this mixed housing development. It's been a couple years in the making. He didn't. I don't want to speak for him. They do these things on their timeline. It's an awesome project. I think it fits great, but we don't. We create an atmosphere for people to develop, but we don't tell them what they should and shouldn't do because they know it a lot better than we do.
Right.
And they know their own timing.
Do you
and
think?
All of those things.
Okay, and again, we're not throwing anybody under the bus, but we definitely have an affordable housing problem in the city of Erie, and we have lots of land, or supposedly, if we could ever get the blight situation down, we could have a lot of land.
Sure.
But I've noticed that our zoning is extremely tight, and so we talk about that one big chunk of land, in the Mercyhurst neighborhood. It's right behind the old, right behind St. Peter and Paul Church, Byzantine Church.
Sure.
It's $300,000 for a whole city block.
Okay.
And but it's R1, so you could only build on that block, single family homes.
Gotcha.
Right in the middle of the city, where it'd be perfect to do walk-ups or townhomes or something fancy.
How do you think that would go over with the neighbors? Right.
I don't know. I mean, the city's in decline.
I understand that.
You keep dropping population. If you can make it so that somebody could buy a condo for $220 or something. You get 3 bedrooms and 2 baths in a 2-story condo. I don't know.
I have to think that city council, I assume they have the power of zoning in third-class cities or whatever they are, would have the ability
right.
to do that. So what's the issue? So why doesn't it happen? It has to tell me that the neighbors wouldn't accept
Well, I'm
it.
sure they would flip out. I mean, they're already, who is it? Is it Agresti that wants to build out? Over by McClellan there.
Yeah,
There's
I
that
think
one
right.
last piece.
Right? Yep.
There's
yep,
like
still
one
there.
piece, and they've just gotten hammered.
They have. Well, because that one, I think the neighbors want all their open space. That happens all the time. So we deal with that. We deal with not in my backyard all the time.
Right,
and
right,
I
right.
understand it. Right? I get it. And we say to people, and they chirp at me a little bit, and they don't like this answer. But I said to them, then you should have bought it. You knew it was for sale forever. The price is reasonable at this point. If your neighbors wanted it to remain open space, then you should have bought it and maintain the open space.
Wow,
but they
that's
don't,
brilliant.
right? They don't, and then they want to blame the government.
and they want control over it.
It's the only way to do that is to buy it, right? But they
Wow.
want to blame the government all the time, and this is what happens.
yeah.
And I get it. We zone as best we can, but we can't zone people out. That's not how this can work. Unfortunately, you want to control what goes on around you. You got to buy it if you can. I know that isn't always feasible, but in many cases, certainly it is. So that's the case there.
All
Sorry,
right.
Joel's trying to do
It's
two
like,
things
I'm like,
at once, man.
Where
Sorry.
is my shady,
Shady?
trying to help me here?
Yeah,
You know,
I can't help
Oh
you.
my gosh. Hang in there a second. All right, we've got like 6 minutes. Trump for the next week here. Do you think he's going to be able to benefit from all these things?
Without a doubt.
I mean,
Without a
is
doubt.
he all of a sudden now the wizard of deal making?
He does seem to be that way. As bad as it was 2 weeks ago, and I was pretty critical. You were pretty critical 2
Yeah.
weeks ago. I mean, listen, the optics were bad. He didn't have a good couple of weeks, and he said, "Hang in there." And we said a couple of weeks ago, "Let's see how it plays out." Winning,
But it was
winning some wars.
we were feeling it was tough, man. We're seeing our
Right.
401ks go south and all that.
I understand, but it's come back clearly all the way. Again, we need to understand, I guess, we hold all the cards. He said that before. Why hold the cards? If you don't have any cards, you don't have much to play with. And he's right about that. And we do hold more cards than not. It's not surprising.
Talking about the United States.
Yes. So it's not surprising to me that deals will get done. What we don't know is what is the outcome. Are we really is all this tariffs going to bring in all of this money, and are we going to be paid more as workers because of it? And is the deficit going to go down? Are you going to be able to decrease taxes and all these things and still not hurt the budget?
Do you think that Americans don't really care that we're going to make billions and billions from tariffs, or the better outcome is kind of what the outcome's going to be is they're not going to mess with us anymore?
No, it'll come down to what they have to pay for stuff. So Americans right now understand.
You're absolutely right.
They understand. Okay, we've been getting hosed. Okay, like I understand that. I'm with you. I got you for now. Your ratings have gone down. Your popularity has gone down a little. Your approval ratings, but I'm with you. But as long as the price of goods continues to come down, gas is coming down. By the way,
Yes.
as you promised it would happen. Regulations, drilling at home, all those things. As long as prices stabilize, come down, and don't go up, then I think Americans will be fine. But beyond that, they're not going to care. If prices go up, they don't care whether we win trade wars or not. People are going to be angry.
So those $35, $40 Dockers that are made in Cambodia, if they become $60 Dockers, that's going to make people mad.
It's got a huge problem. And it won't matter to us if the deficit goes down, if we're paying $20 more for jeans. Nope, people aren't going to do it. That'll be a problem. So he has to think at this point that will be the case. I think
Well,
it will.
and again, he's warning people things will be a little bit tighter. You might not get $30, which, again, there's an exception of, okay, what's frivolous and what's essential.
Yeah.
Certainly, rare minerals, once they kind of put the kibosh on that turned his head quite a bit.
True. But a level playing field at the end of the day, I think, is really what he's looking for. And he holds the cards to get to a level playing field.
But
for
what's
this
the
country.
American public going to let him get away? What are they going to be tolerant of?
Anything as long as prices don't go up. As long as inflation continues to go in the right direction, then I think he can get away with all of it.
I don't think we can escape inflation.
We'll see. Has it gotten worse?
No,
We're in
it's
month 5.
stable as far as energy prices, and energy is very important.
He said that,
But the food prices they're not going down.
but they're not even
I
worse.
mean, we're still paying steak prices for cereal.
We're only 4 months in. We're 4 months into this administration.
Cereal, my Honey Bunches of Oats is not going to be not $7.
Yeah. Okay, well,
Dude, Kellogg's Post, General Mills, they're not cutting their prices.
it doesn't typically come down. I understand that, right? I think it will a little. I think it has to. It has to. He's got to expect that. Do you think it's going to go back to pre-pandemic levels? That ain't happening, man. Don't.
You know
regret for that.
where it's going to really need to happen. And again, we're having our next conversation with Matthew Good. The housing has to get somewhat affordable, does it not?
Oh, sure.
I mean, and that probably is going to happen through interest rates falling. But I don't see that the market is going to go negative. We've never seen negative markets except for the housing collapse in 2008.
Right.
I mean, are we really looking for a destruction of the American economy? No.
No, I guess a lot of it's here to stay, but the fundamentals of the economy still continue to be strong. I'm stunned by that. By the way, that happened during the Biden administration, too. The recession never happened. Depression never
That's
happened.
true.
All the things they talked about, right? Same thing now. We worried about all this with Trump. The fundamentals are very strong. Hiring is still up. Gas going in the right direction. A lot of fundamentals are still strong. It hasn't changed much from the Biden administration. So I think that we probably have to accept some of this, that prices aren't going back to where they're pre-pandemic, but I think they'll come down a little, not a lot. But yeah, I think this is probably the new reality, and the country probably will get used to it. It goes through it from time to time.
I don't see wages coming down.
No.
I mean,
no.
because there's not enough workers.
Right.
So there's still a premium on workers,
Exactly.
right?
As long as the fundamentals are strong, I don't think much will change. There is no appetite from anyone to have a change.
I don't share your optimism.
I get it, because I don't like paying this stuff either, man. Stuff's expensive still.
I mean, a kid working at a front end job is still going to require $17-18 an hour.
Sure.
Which is like shocking to that small business owner that was used to paying $10 and thought he was being super generous.
Yeah, unless that kid is really good and helps you make money. That doesn't always happen, of course.
Right.
Right? Some people are worth it.
Yeah,
I understand. It's not going away at this point.
It's so funny to see entry level, having to offer 16, 17, $18 to get somebody to come to your door.
We're 2 or 3 years into this now, though. It's kind of become the new norm.
It is. And so that means everything is more expensive.
And probably not going backwards much.
No.
Right. But I don't think getting worse. I don't.
And you think Trump in the end gets a lot of kudos for kind of settling some of these foreign entanglements, as well as bringing, coming back from the brink on the tariffs.
Yeah, the fundamentals work. It makes sense, I think, to most people, and appears to be headed in the right direction. As long as that happens. Again, it's a fleeting business. 2 weeks ago, we're like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
so,
dude, you're killing us.
Right.
Yeah.
What is this really going to work? Nobody really believes this today. Okay, you got some deals done. I get it. You just want it to be fair. Yep, we're getting screwed. Makes sense to us. Had a good couple of days. Probably continues.
We'll leave it there. Thank
Sure.
you, Dino. Appreciate it, man.
You have been called
to do good,
to feed the hungry,
to love with action,
to be a light in the darkness,
to love your neighbor,
to teach wisdom,
to walk humbly,
to love mercy,
to care for the least of these.
Will you accept the call?
This is our city.
Our mission.
Visit eriecitymission.org/volunteer to accept the call today.
All year round, Frontier Home Products and Design has what you need to make your home comfortable and beautiful. Relax on a new timber tech deck designed by Frontier's experts. A new fireplace from Frontier Home Products Fireplace Gallery adds warmth and serenity to any home. Beauty and versatility at Frontier Home Products and Design Center, 4213 Peachtree, East 5th, next to the Bayfront Highway.
Frontier Home Products and Design Center. Discover a new frontier.
PA contractor number PA039007.
I'm excited to continue our coverage of this housing issue in Erie County. And with us here is the CEO of Hands, and it's Matthew Good. Matthew, welcome back to the show. Appreciate you being on.
Well, it's good to be here, and I appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
You got it here. So, Matthew, remind us again about Hands and how you got involved with Hands there.
Certainly. Hands has a nearly 60-year history in the Erie community. And we started out as, volunteers through church programs who were interested in helping their neighbors achieve quality, affordable housing. And to this day, 60 years later, I can still say that the heart of that mission is what drives us every day. concerned about better housing, concerned about quality housing and affordable housing for our neighbors and our community. How I got involved in it, I was the director of real estate development or planning for Hands for a number of years, and as the CEO now for about 6 years. We have about 1,100 units of housing under ownership and management, mostly here in Erie County, mostly in the multifamily rental area at this point. And even though we started kind of as a home buyer mentoring, these volunteers were helping mentor people buy their own homes, we've really transitioned into a multifamily rental. Seniors, persons with disabilities, veterans, and just a general affordable housing population.
As I heard it from Dusty over at the Erie County, Housing Authority, right? Or Erie City Housing Authority. Hands is a very essential part of the whole housing ecosystem, right? Because, the Housing Authority can't do it all themselves. You can't do it all yourself. Yeah. And the other agencies that work in this space, you're kind of a team effort, isn't it?
Yeah, you mentioned the word continuum earlier, Joel, and I think that's the essential word with housing anymore, because the populations that I described are certain groups of people that have housing needs, but there's affordability issues across the spectrum today, and we fill a part of that with a lot of different partners, and there's plenty of housing work to go around these days.
I want to ask you an essential question that I've been basically asking everybody as we have these chats, and that is the concept of Erie was always known as an inexpensive place to live. But when you look at what market rents are these days, you look at what it costs to even get into a entry-level home, what interest rates are at right now, is Erie still affordable?
I think Erie's still affordable because it's a national issue. There's a deficit of new housing production. A lot of factors are driving that, but I think that all in all, they're comparatively, friends who live in Boston or some larger cities, even what the affordable housing statutory rents are, Erie, we're still much below where things are. And so, there are national discussions, policy discussions about how do we boost housing production. And I think that is one of the key essential questions out there.
Well, I'd love to go there, because it seems like everybody I talk to that's in this space again, to build a $1,200 unit. What is it, $250 a square foot these days? It's like some kind of crazy number, right? Yeah. Am I off on that?
I think it's a lot higher than that.
Oh, is it? Oh, my gosh.
We just had a project out to bid, and, the numbers per square foot are, $400 a square foot on new construction anymore, at least, and just very, very expensive. And that's a competitive bid.
How are you supposed to navigate that? I mean, again, you've been in the business all these years, right?
It takes 8+ different sources of funds. In our world, we go out and apply for it. We look for available resources and various programs, and it takes that much to pull it all together. And to keep the rent affordable. That's the end of the sources of money that we pull together. You can't really go out and conventionally finance those and then have a debt service over the course of the life of that property like the private sector does. So that's one essential difference that we look at.
And again, we can dive into where HUD is on all this, because I'm sure there's some question marks in your brain about where those Fed dollars are going to be concerned. But let's see if we can, kind of dive in a little bit on Hands' essential work here. You have developments in one or two, 4 units all over the place, right? It's not just the city, it's in the county, it's in boroughs, it's in townships. Can you talk a bit about kind of the widespreadness of Hands there?
Sure. Erie County is our primary market, but we have housing in Crawford County, Mercer County, Warren, We've done development work as far as near Franklin County, which is near Gettysburg, of all places. But that's one of the things that we think that makes us unique, is that we build in some smaller communities where people perhaps have aged and want to downsize but remain in their communities. And so building in smaller areas like Waterford or Washington Township or Edinburgh Borough is very important to us, to build in communities where people live.
And are they generally people that are doing this? They're all renting, or are some of them housing, unhoused? I mean, who are the typical clients for Hands, I guess?
Oh gosh, well, in our senior population, I would say that they're people who may have had a spouse pass away and are living in a larger home that is not energy efficient, for example, and so they're housing burdened or their expenses are that way. And so they look at living with their neighbors, living in a multifamily community. We have a veteran population, for example, people who have served from 18 years of age on, have a career, and unfortunately have been homeless for one reason or another. They work with the Veterans Administration in overcoming some barriers, whether it's mental health or drug addiction or other problems that have put them in an unhoused situation. And so we have developments that serve there. The other area, people that have disabilities have various barriers to employment and other things in life where they find housing to be a difficult thing to secure.
So in those cases, are you working with agencies for wraparound services or, home health? How does that all work?
Absolutely. We have, on staff, we have a couple staff people by the title of a resident resource coordinator.
Okay.
And so they make sure that residents are connected to services or programs that help them be more successful renters or residents of ours by connecting them with various things. Could be simple things like signing up for a bus pass or meal programs or mental health services. So it takes quite a bit of effort to put into that, but that is something that we really value, in just not housing people, but making sure that people are connected to services for a quality of life.
Would you say, in recent months or years, there's been a lot of focus on homelessness? Again, anybody walking downtown, I was recently performing in a play, right?
Okay.
And we went for an after show party, and there's people laying in doorways and stuff, and I'm like, geez, and it was cold out, right? And so that visual is still with us, and so people think that everybody is like that who are unhoused. But that's really not the case. Give me kind of, from your perspective, from the Hands perspective, where homelessness is at, and like what is your role in that part of the homeless situation?
We've had a couple interesting stories that I've been made aware of that people would say, maybe a vendor who works for us, would say, I have somebody on staff who's homeless. I didn't even realize it. They would come in early to the office thinking that they were just a diligent employee getting there. Here they were getting ready for the day, or had spent the night in the car. Or we have a lot of people that experience a domestic violence type situation where they may live in a motel or a car because it's a safer situation. And providing that independence and that safety and security to people is a face of homelessness that sometimes people don't even really think about. They think about the hard situations that you talked about and people being on the street. But there are a lot of housing insecurities out there in different areas that we don't even think about. I think schools focus on children who might couch surf at a cousin's house or a friend's house because they're experiencing some disruption in a household. And I'd like to think that we're providing an opportunity for people to have that security of a safe, affordable house that they can then focus on being a good student or a parent or an employee. providing people that opportunity is something that I think is very important.
When you think about all the things that are being talked about coming online, do you see that there's a need for all of that? Because there's a lot. We're resource rich in Erie County, but it seems like we still need more. That's what I'm hearing anyway.
Absolutely, and I think the efforts of many groups to provide the permanent supportive housing that they're looking at developing in Erie is still a market that we need to focus on. I would say that of all the housing opportunities that we provide at Hands, that's still a population that needs attention and needs the expertise that I think they're bringing to the table to address that issue. Is still something that is very much needed in our community.
So given with all the resources and where the market is at for somebody to even I'm just thinking of like the working poor, or almost feels like, Matthew, that like people at the average or near average are having a hard time with affordable. I shouldn't say it affordable housing that they can afford.
Yeah, and I think that that's an important distinction.
Yes,
because there are statutory definitions of affordable housing. We kind of fall into that world, but affordability of housing is a much larger topic. The definitions that we currently operate under may have to be defined to capture a larger group of middle-income people to qualify for affordable housing. I feel that could be a direction that would help many people. I think it's getting difficult to even construct housing without some level of subsidy, whatever that is, to make it affordable for people today. It's I think a national conversation that needs to happen of how we make more affordable housing for people.
We were talking about the concept that it used to be that a house would be 2 years of income, right? And so if you look at the average Erie County household income, I think it's like $53,000 a year. I might be wrong on that, but well, hey, we'll be generous. We'll call it 60. So that means that your average house should be 120. Well, I challenge any realtor to call me and say, "Oh, I've got half a dozen $120,000 houses to sell you." It ain't there.
No, it doesn't exist.
And so we have an issue here.
Yeah. Again, to talk in terms of the statutory definitions,
right,
I think really need to be thought of as to who qualifies for some type of affordable housing.
So
expanding
it could
that
be
market.
much bigger, yeah.
I mean, we always talk in terms of a percent of the area median income. Maybe that percent needs to move beyond 60% to 80% or 120%. Maybe there needs to be another category, and I think that that's part of the income qualifying that might help.
We're talking to Matthew Good here on the Joel Natale Show, and your website and your mission talks about making stronger, more vibrant neighborhoods, and that you're not going to own every home, but you guys could be a positive catalyst, right? I mean,
yeah, I think of some of the buildings, and I'm very proud of some of the history of the buildings that we have repurposed into affordable housing. St. Joseph's was an orphanage, for example.
Wow, yeah.
And Villa Maria Convent and the school at 8th and Liberty. The Boston store in downtown Erie, department store that sat abandoned for how long, is now serving an affordable housing need in a market rate need in our
I was
community.
going to say, you have mixed use there, right?
That's correct. The first floor is all commercial. There's a radio station. We've got Voodoo in there, a couple home health care companies. 72% of the units are affordable in the definition.
Mm-hmm.
We have market rate apartments that are very sought after, great views, great amenities in the downtown area. And so, having pride in a lot of our buildings, I think adds to the vibrancy, that affordable housing can be a part of our community, can be a part of of who we are as a community and still add to a neighborhood and add to a community.
Are you surprised at the demand for market rate housing downtown? Because there was a lot of naysayers when EDDC was proposing things. Probably when you guys were saying, "Hey, we're gonna carve out," and actually your predecessor too, right? It was like a mixed. There were special tax deals if you include affordable, but there was going to be mixed market rate and now we're seeing. Market rate, or at least they call it workforce.
Sure.
What is workforce housing? What is that?
I would say that it's affordable housing geared more toward, working populations, the folks that we talked about that, might be starting out in careers or in the middle of careers that aren't quite high-end income workers, but yet can afford some level of housing and are in the workforce. And it's geared as affordable housing in that area.
Yeah, and so are there different programs either from the feds or the state for these levels of housing, do you think, Matthew?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about HUD, but the one program area that we didn't really touch upon is the IRS tax credit program for affordable housing. And it allows it's an allocation that each state gets from the federal government. The federal government changed its policies in the 1980s to incentivize the private sector to invest in affordable housing, allows different income brackets. So you can be, in the workforce, you can have, and you might start out as a lower wage worker. Mm-hmm. You may work yourself into a better career, work at it, stabilize your career, and not risk losing your housing. The HUD model checks that every year. And if your income went above a certain level, you no longer qualified for affordable housing. So the tax credit program allows that flexibility and appeals to the workforce where someone could stay in their home. They don't have to be disrupted and leave if they advance in a career or their household composition changes where they have a better income. One of our success stories is in Edinburgh. We built a single family development, and many of those long-term 15 and 16-year renters at the end of that period were able to afford to buy their homes.
Wow.
And so,
by the way, they're gorgeous. I've not really seen too many on the inside, but from the outside, they're beautiful. They are, state of the art, a gorgeous neighborhood.
We built in a market rate subdivision, and we bought the balance of the lots that were there. And so it was kind of infilled in a suburban setting. And many of those people started out as young families raising kids and now have been able to afford to buy their homes.
Was that a unique strategy when you did that, where you were basically buying from a builder, hey, we're going to take up a half a dozen or a dozen lots or whatever? Mm-hmm. I mean, is that unique for you guys?
It's a little bit unique in that it was mixed in with just average, market rate. And, not that there weren't some bumps in the road early on, but I think that they all worked together and they all became neighbors, and it's been a successful neighborhood.
I mean, you read the trades, you see the lay of the land, you probably see the MLS. Why aren't we building more, developments? I guess they just announced there's a new one coming online in Harbor Creek, but it just seems like we were doing a lot more building 20, 30 years ago,
Yeah, it definitely has been a challenge for us. We've been surprised that we looked at new developments, building a 40-unit development, and what the costs are coming in at has been staggering. We had a development going on in the midst of COVID in 2020. It involved renovation and new construction. And just 16 months after that, the construction bids were 45% higher than they were.
45%.
To be able to construct that. And so the market hopefully is returning to a sustainable that we can build again, but it's been a challenge. We've been in a preservation mode, investing in our existing properties to keep them affordable rather than new development. My hope is soon that we'll be able to be in production again.
Yeah, when you if you have something that's 15, 20 years online, needs a new roof, probably needs some gutters, paint job, and all that stuff. You're making stronger, more vibrant neighborhoods.
The original name of Hands was, get this, the St. Martin de Porres Volunteer Improvement Project. So
who's St. Martin but de Porres?
St. Martin, we have St. Martin Center.
Sure.
St. Martin, was a saint in the Catholic Church, biracial background, did a lot of work with charities and the poor, and apparently, became the popular name for charities here in town. But so St. Martin VIP, but we're glad that they came up with Housing and Neighborhood Development Service, and HANDS is a much more common acronym to remember. So.
Yeah, I think of Hands of Erie.
Hands of Erie.
Yeah, and you see that logo everywhere. Do you still have some locations on 6th Street? Are you there anymore?
Yeah, absolutely. St. Joseph Apartments probably is known out near 6th and Maryland, and we have 201 apartments for seniors. It's still our largest housing development, but again, embodies a reuse of a building that was the orphanage for the diocese.
My aunt lived there years ago. Yeah.
And we have people who were adopted from there years ago who are now living there as seniors. And so the building has had an interesting life cycle.
How do you get into something like I've always wondered what the workflow is for someone from having an interest in maybe a senior apartment like that to actually being able to accomplish that.
Yeah, well, it's an application process, and that I tell anybody who's ever interested in it, you have to get your application in. And there's a whole process for it. When units become available or vacant, we have property managers who know all the rules and regulations as far as income guidelines and everything else. And it can be a process, but getting your application in, you can visit our website, you can visit us at our office or call the office and have an application mailed to you, and that's where it all starts.
And that's different. That's senior living. That's independent living.
That's correct.
That is not assisted living or even any kind of nursing kind of care, right?
No, it's not. It is independent living. Even though we talked about having, some staff on site to make sure people are connected, people still have to live, independently. It's not a medical facility, but people can live independently with a little assistance from a nurse's aide that comes in to visit, and we have more and more of that in our housing. But independent living is the basic criteria.
When it comes to like veterans housing, is there a connection with the VA? Or is there like the DAV providing transportation services? Again, it's a roof over your head, but you still need to be able to get to things and so on, right?
Many people, Freedom Square is the name of the apartment complex here in Erie
that's up on Peach,
it's
right?
On Peach and 26th Street.
I know that, yeah.
And Goodrich House, which is the red brick, mansion kind of building that sits on the corner, serves veterans. There is a definite connection to the VA. Like I said, they have homeless services that they offer at the VA, and they helped many of the people who live there connect with permanent, affordable housing. And I can remember one of the first people who moved in there when we completed it, and he had been living in his truck. He was working. He was, I don't want to say what his occupation was, but, he was working. But every day he'd leave. He was parking, living in his truck, and waited for this opportunity when that housing was built and completed to move in there to have his own place. So,
can I say that I find it remarkable and something that I'm sure you guys find very rewarding, that you almost have a bent for redeeming historical buildings. I'm thinking of that mansion there on Peach, or of course St. Joseph's Home. I mean, that's got to be part of your DNA, I would think, Matthew.
Yeah, very much so. I often list in my own mind, we have housing in a former orphanage, a convent, grade schools, high schools, a college dormitory, department store, you name it. They've all been repurposed into affordable housing. And like I said before, it not only changes the lives of the people who live there, but really save that neighborhood. Can you imagine if some of those buildings still sat vacant or boarded up or even torn down? But now they remain in the community, and they remain viable.
All right, you don't have to respond to this, but I thought it was a shame when Penn West tore down like the towers and Rose. I thought somebody like you guys could redeem that for housing in Edinboro, right?
Yeah, well,
I mean,
they may have some buildings in the future. You know,
Okay.
I know that they're talking about the repurposing of some of the housing that they've built there, and maybe there are opportunities. So.
Okay. Well, again, I'm not trying to run anybody down, but it's like when you see, I mean, when I hear about all of this housing need and you see actual things that worked and there was plumbing and everything worked, you hate to see something end up in the rubble. You know what I mean? So what are the future plans? I mean, you mentioned that you're kind of in a stability mode. You're trying to make sure you're maintaining, 1,100 units. I mean, that's got to be millions of dollars to operate all of that. What's next? I mean, are you running a strategic plan? Are you talking to people what future needs might be? There are literally hundreds of people that are applying for Social Security and retiring on a weekly to monthly basis, even in this town right here.
Yeah, we're currently working in Fairview in Erie County, preserving Chestnut Street apartments. It's been Chestnut Street School was converted about 20 plus years ago into senior affordable housing, and it reached a life cycle where it needed a significant investment. And so over the last year and a half, we're going to finish up here in September and October, but new roof, new heating, new air conditioning, very energy efficient property that will serve West County for many, many years to come. We started a building evaluation on the Boston store itself. Again, approaching 30 years as affordable housing, and that is a lot of square footage that needs constant attention. And so we'll likely be out in the market looking for funding and financing to complete some major renovations there in the near future. Well, probably 2026, 2027. But yeah, we operate under a strategic plan that talks about new housing production, preservation of affordable housing, and constantly evaluating what the needs are in the community for affordable housing.
Do you ever run into zoning issues? I was talking to Dean Pepicello earlier because they were talking about their new development out in Harbor Creek, and it seems like in the city, as we, little by little try to alleviate blight, you're dealing with R1 zoning a lot of times, right? And so that only allows for a single-family home. The lots have to be a certain size and so on. And generally, your big success points are multifamily, right?
Right.
Do you get a good vibe coming from the city when you see a project that hands can really get their arms around,
Hands and arms.
Yes, yeah.
So we consider what we call Midtown here in the city of Erie.
Yeah.
And they're single family homes on East 12th, 13th, and 14th between German and Parade. In that area over there. And
don't you have a little bit of a couple storefronts on Parade there?
We've done
That's
some
yours,
storefronts,
or,
but in that neighborhood on 13th and 14th in particular, those are all single family homes. And take a drive through there sometime. It is a successful single family home neighborhood. I think one of the keys, whether it's a multifamily building or single family homes, is that it has to really make an impact, it has to be of scale. It needs to have, 15 plus homes all done at once. And that's the type of commitment we've had in that Midtown neighborhood. We started.
How did you get the land? What was the land before that? Do you remember?
The redevelopment authority process at the time, I think, there was some houses were blighted.
Yeah.
Some places were abandoned. Other places have just been on the market that we see them for sale. Unfortunately, some things go to tax sale or families walk away from a house for whatever reason. And we constantly monitor those things when things are published or a tax sale comes up, and buy it, land bank it for a while, and then build new construction on it. So
are you sitting on some land that could be developable, you think?
Not that much right now. In that neighborhood in particular, maybe 3 or 4 vacant lots that we keep up. But every once in a while we go after the funding and we build a few houses. So
how do you feel that the land bank structure, both the city and the county, is working right now? Because again, I'll do my editorial comment. I think there's a lot of green shoots, but it feels like it takes a really long time. Like, doing 20, 30 homes a year that are totally blighted, given the size and scale of our blight in Erie, seems like it's just nibbling at the issue.
It's, I feel like maybe we've gotten a late start on it, but, finding qualified developers, people who are able to pull it off, I think finding development partners to do that is critical. They were very helpful with us on our more recent development on Parade Street.
Okay.
There was one of the last in the stretch of between 12th and 13th Street on the east side of the street. And, they handled that process. And then it came with a bit of a financial package to be able to handle some environmental remediation and demolition, cleared the way for us to be able to go ahead and focus on getting the money and the resources to build new. So,
and it seems like whatever you guys touch is really well done. Like, I mean, you really insist on quality. I mean, that seems to be one of your hallmarks.
I think that's our legacy, our founders and the people who have been in Running Hands, for all of these years have insisted upon it. And we all live in this community just like everybody else does, and we want something that's quality. My predecessor used to say, real estate is forever. So when you get involved in it and you pick a project and you go with it, you have to keep that in mind, that it's there forever and it has to be done right.
All right, so let's see if we can kind of look in Matthew Good's crystal ball here, because I want you to kind of expand away from Hands and just the entire market in general. Housing is like one of the top 3 issues we talk about. We talk about housing and homelessness, child care, and we talk about jobs and workforce, right? And they all are intertwined. Right. There's no doubt about it. You can't go to work if you have anybody to watch your kids, and you can't really work unless you have a decent roof over your head, and so on. There's a few things that have come up recently in the city. You've got the Tenants' Bill of Rights. You've got concern about private equity, scooping in and buying single-family homes just to rent them, and it destabilizes neighborhoods. You guys are all about stability with neighborhoods, and so how do you think like this ecosystem can work together on all those levels, from the definition of affordable housing all the way to market rate? How does this need to come together here to really make sure that Erie's growing toward up and to the right, so that when people come and they say, hey, I might want to land here and go work for Erie Insurance or go work for Hammett, that they're going to find something decent,
Yeah. I think it has to have an affordable housing component to it, because I think that brings everybody back to center.
In the exclusive definition, or just in general?
Just in general.
Okay.
Whether there takes a national tone to these conversations or whatever happens to it, but I think affordability has to be at the heart and the substance of what developers are all about. I think that people really need to evaluate that and have a heart for that. We talk about some parity in the market with the Tenant Bill of Rights and things like that. It's interesting to hear those discussions, because when we operate under federal law for fair housing, we've had that for a long time. Or when you talk about fair notice to rent increases and all of those things, I smile just a little bit, because it's like that's the environment we've lived in for a long time. And to have community conversations where that is now being applied a little bit more across the board, I think are very healthy discussions.
Yeah.
They may cause a little bit of anxiety in some circles, but it's what the law has been in many places and carried out in affordable housing for a long time.
Do you think that some people need to recalibrate, both tenants as saying, hey, you can't be trashing your places, and landlords have to recalibrate too, of like what expectations should be, or what minimums should be? Because I thought, like, for example, in the city with the BIU inspections, that we weren't having these safety issues and, open sewer lines and all that stuff. And it seems like, no, that's still the thing, right? I mean,
well, there's still, I think, some legacy problems that are there when it comes, the BIU and the inspections moving forward have certainly helped the quality of housing moving forward, but existing conditions or what someone's definition is of quality, there's still a ways to go. That's for sure.
And you guys, I would imagine, are strong advocates for equal and fair code enforcement, I would think.
Correct.
I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but no, you're going to live by those rules and way above them.
It's like we have equity investors. They come in. We have the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency, HUD, all have standards that we have to maintain and keep our housing toward and put the resources toward doing that. It's a component of affordable housing because it's not just about taking rent and making money off of it. It's reinvesting in the housing itself. To have that conversation and applied in a parity discussion, I think is a good thing.
Are you willing to take a call here? We'll get a quick one here. I've got 30 seconds. A quick call for our guest, Matthew Good.
Joel, you always give me the short end of the stick.
Well, we're up against it. I'm sorry.
Okay. Here's the thing I'll say, Matthew. When you talk to the powers that be, perhaps maybe you have to start pushing somehow homes that are 2,000 feet and below, that we can get it to a less stringent building code when it comes to the insulation, meaning the thickness of walls, the amount that we're putting into the attic, whatnot, to not make the house inefficient, but safe and affordable, because we're at the point where you get a small home that we used to build in the 80s and 90s that cannot be built anymore that way because the staircase is dictated. It's got to be so big and it doesn't fit in the house anymore without ruining a bedroom or a kitchen area to the point where it's redundant what happened here. It just it's not feasible to do it. And I think that is the big thing when you say affordable homes. There's no such thing as that word anymore. Everything is expensive. And the only way you're going to do it is, I'm not saying the structure be less
sound
safe or anything. We're not going to do that. But we need to get to a situation where, yes, you're going to have an 80-plus furnace, not a 90-plus furnace.
Mm-hmm.
These are,
okay.
It adds up.
I hear you.
And
thank you. I appreciate it.
No,
all right,
peace.
That is it. That certainly has added, I think, to the expense.
We're still. Are we saying the Universal Commercial Code has gotten more stringent and is kind of hurting us?
And a lot of things that are done in the name of energy efficiency, absolutely has added to various costs. Higher, but you could also You could also say then it is more affordable later on because operating costs are lower, perhaps. So that is an interesting perspective.
Yeah, well, it all comes down to if we can't build it, then we don't have the unit for those people, and if we're going to be in a scenario where we're going to try to turn the ship around and start, building up again, even in this political campaign, in the municipal campaign, one of the biggest conversations is about population loss. Well, you got to have something that was born, this side of the year 2000. We're 25 years into this thing, and if we haven't built anything, again, and hats off to you guys, because you've been doing it at Hands.
It's one step at a time. We'd love to do more of it, but to do quality and to have the resources to do it, has to be sustainable.
Yeah. Someone writes, $400 a square foot is incredibly expensive to build. It's very true.
Yeah.
It's just hard to do. Thank you. I guess more to come, right, Matthew Good?
Stay tuned. Yeah, there's more. There's more. We enjoy what we do, and it's challenging, but we enjoy it.
Thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the time.
You've been listening to The Joel Natale Show, Erie, Pennsylvania's daily podcast from TalkErie.com. Subscribe to our show on your favorite podcatcher and get involved by emailing Joel@TalkErie.com.